Hey, everybody out there. The big question of the hour is, will Biden survive his Afghan disaster? Now, some say it'll all blow over, and after a few months, the only people carping about Biden's disastrous exit from Afghanistan will be the right wingers on Fox News. Well, I doubt it. Even in the best case scenario, if there is one, the outrage and disgust over Biden's incompetent handling of Afghanistan will continue to erode public confidence in his presidency and in his popularity. What is the best case? It is the Taliban keeping its promise to allow Americans, Afghans, and others to exit the country without interference and without retribution. It is also keeping its promise to allow women their rights, but the qualifier here is within Sharia law, which in effect means no rights as Western world defines them. That's the best case, which at this point seems unlikely to me, perhaps more accurately, extremely unlikely. Now, what's the worst case? The worst case is Americans and others not being allowed to leave the country or get to the airport for flights away from Afghanistan. The worst case is Americans, thousands of them, held hostage. The worst case is Americans and others being publicly humiliated, imprisoned, publicly executed, and beheaded. Not possible or likely, you say? Very possible and very likely if you don't believe the new rhetoric about a kinder, gentler Taliban, and if you instead consider the savage history of the Taliban. Then what will our commander-in-chief do? Will he send the troops back in force and ignite an even bloodier conflict with no end in sight? Or will he simply ignore it and hope the American people do the same? What do I think will happen? I think that if any of the worst case scenarios begin playing out, there is a very good chance that the president's own party will find a way to oust him. Don't forget Biden saying that when he was vice president, if he had some fundamental disagreement with Barack Obama, he'd, quote, develop some disease and say, I have to resign. He could use that as an exit strategy regarding his bungled withdrawal from Afghanistan, which would allow him to step down, he would hope, with some modicum of dignity and sympathy. His party would want to see to it that he exits under that circumstance, as they are already worrying, very worried, about how they will fare in the midterm elections and what prospects they'd have for retaining the White House in 2024. Now, if Biden doesn't cooperate, well, keep in mind that there are already increasing calls that he step down, resign, and even be impeached, convicted in the Senate, and removed from office that way. Former President Trump is among those calling for Biden's resignation, and Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, for one, says that she is drafting articles of impeachment. But it's not just Republicans that want Biden gone. Such calls will increase from both sides, not only because of Afghanistan, but also because of the Biden-engineered mess at our southern border. Add to that other non-crowd pleasers, such as increasing gas prices, along with big jumps in food prices and other necessities, and the looming threat of runaway inflation. Also, increasing resistance to masking mandates, along with government-imposed requirements for vaccinations. Plus, the increasingly obvious signs of the president's mental decline, which, as they worsen, will be very difficult to ignore, even by his biggest boosters and media propagandists and cheerleaders. And that could open the door to removing him through the 25th Amendment if he does not go willingly. But if Biden is removed, the Democrats still have a problem, a big one, by the name of Kamala Harris. Her popularity continues to decline, and like Biden, she often puts her foot in her mouth and clearly still is not ready for prime time. The party will shudder at the prospect of her ascending to the presidency if Biden is removed, and shudder even more at what will happen if they run her as president in her own right in 2024. So, what alternatives are left? Under the terms of the 25th Amendment, Harris doesn't necessarily have to become president if she herself is forced out, and if an unsuspecting Biden could be persuaded to pick someone more acceptable to the party as vice president, and that pick is then confirmed by both houses of Congress, and that person would then be poised to become president when Biden himself is forced out. Now I realize this is really getting wild. Could it actually come to such an extreme? Consider this. What we've learned from history is that even the most improbable developments can and have occurred, and once they do, they seem not so much as extremely improbable, but extremely unsurprising against the background of extreme events. Will any of this play out? I don't know at this point. It all depends on what happens in Afghanistan and what Biden does and doesn't do within the next few weeks. So stay tuned. And in the meantime, stay tuned to On Target with Larry Sparano, and please stay informed, stay curious, and stay safe. See you soon.